Focus. I am Vice Mayor Nora Ellen, and today we're going to talk about a topic that is affecting millions of Americans, diabetes and prediabetes. Today I've invited two guests on our show, Dr. Peter Novakovic and Elisa Casey, who is a certified nutrition specialist. Welcome to you both, and thank you for joining us here.
Thank you.
We're going to start with Dr. Novakovic. Let's begin by sharing your background with our viewers.
I finished medical school in Yugoslavia, Belgrade, and residency in Chicago, 3 years. That's why my accent is from South Chicago, probably.
Yeah, right, definitely.
I've been practicing for close to 20 years here in the Arizona area, Chandler, just down the street. And I practice, general family medicine.
Great. And you are, I just want to share with the viewers, Dr. Novakovic is my family doctor and has been helping me for years. He's done a really great job helping me stay healthy.
It's been an honor.
And Alicia.
Yes. I finished both my bachelor's and my master's in nutrition at U of A and ASU. And I've worked in, clinically, I worked in dialysis in a cancer clinic, went through my own school of life with my own health crisis where I had to learn a whole lot on my own, kind of relearn a lot of what I've been taught. And did a lot actually even in food production. Had a dessert line, all good for you, gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, sugar-free, not taste-free, cheesecakes, cookies. So made nutrition fun through the process.
And I've had some of your amazing desserts especially,
thank you.
which are made from natural ingredients.
All natural ingredients, natural sweeteners, no sugar, everything good for you.
All right, let's talk about what exactly is diabetes, and can you explain the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes and pre-diabetes conditions? Let's start with Dr. Novakovic.
Basically, type 1 versus type 2. Type 1 is what you heard, something that develops in a very young age. Young children develop it, and it's due to lack of insulin. So pancreas does not produce insulin for one reason or another. Why? Still a secret. Autoimmunity, infection, genetics. Type 2, what was known as type 2 or the late onset diabetes, is usually caused by insulin resistance. So opposite to the type 1, these people actually will make tons of insulin trying to overcome the resistance of the target tissues, and eventually then pancreas loses its synthesizing power, and those people run out of their insulin as well. So for classification has been changed over decades. So we can stick with this one just for the sake of the show, but there is even a thing called MODY, M-O-D-Y, mature onset of diabetes of the youth. So there's lots of variations. So more classification is coming as science is learning more about it.
Well, let's have you share with our viewers some basic facts about type 2 diabetes.
Type 2 diabetes usually happens in the adulthood. Again, it is due to resistance of the target tissues to the insulin. This can be caused by factors such as obesity and familial factors. The problem with it, it's pretty much asymptomatic. And then it develops and you have to fight it while you're not feeling it. Most of these patients will be overweight. I would say, my experience, 85% if not more, which is another a reason why they develop it to begin with.
Okay, and covering that, what are the most common symptoms and what are some of the complications if the illness is not treated or controlled?
Big problem with diabetes is that most people don't have any symptoms whatsoever. People hear, oh, doc, I have a problem with my eyes, I'm urinating more often, is that diabetes? Those symptoms develop when it's completely out of control. When the sugars go to 300-400, usually people will linger in the 200s, not feeling anything whatsoever for years, literally, which is unfortunate. That's why it's important to come and see your doctor at least yearly for the general, check. Complications happen almost universally, and they affect small structures such as small nerves, small blood vessels, and everything that is fed by those structures. Complications do occur less frequently and less severely if the diabetes is controlled. So that's why the urge to control it aggressively.
Right, and I appreciated you because I'd never even heard of pre-diabetes and was glad to know there could be such a thing and what we need to do to with our diet and our lifestyle, which is why we're talking here today to help our viewers with diet and lifestyle that they can change without having to go on medication with side effects and those kind of things. Would you agree that many people ignore the symptoms of prediabetes because they assume they're normal signs of aging?
Again, we have to return to earlier conversation. Prediabetes, you will not have any symptoms. You will develop symptoms when your sugar is completely out of control, like 300 or 400. Some people may feel something. When it comes to the signs of aging, people who are completely out of control with their sugar, they will feel some, increased urination, increased thirst, blurred vision, but no major other symptoms. Prediabetes, interestingly enough, the diagnostic criteria for prediabetes may change. What do I mean by that? Well, 20 years ago, 140 on the fasting blood sugar was considered diabetes. Then we lowered it to 126. Why? Because we became aware that people who were diagnosed with prediabetes were actually developing complications of diabetes. Thus, the diagnostic threshold was pushed back. And there are some rumors that it's going to happen again. So people who are now currently labeled as pre-diabetics maybe actually be mild diabetics already.
Okay, that's a really good point. Alicia, tell us about ways to control prediabetes and diabetes without medication, and we'll ask the doctor the same thing. I thought I'd start with you.
Well, first of all, I think we have to go back to we're a country that is actually dealing with obesity and malnutrition at the same time. And that's something we don't think about in a country of abundance. We think, how could we possibly be malnourished? But we've been eating such empty calorie foods for so long and manufactured processed foods that we've forgotten and we've missed all the vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. So first of all, we have to start with just re-nourishing the body and getting back to the basics, the fruits, the vegetables, the nuts, beans, the seeds, the lean proteins, the good oils, so that our body can rebalance. And even just adding fiber, even that is huge in helping to balance blood sugars and preventing the spikes from all over, kind of balances it out a little bit more. Of course, there's exercise is huge, being able to use up that blood sugar that's in our system and help the sensitivity return to the cells. Even some basic supplements, the minerals, chromium, cinnamon, omega-3s, probiotics, those are huge in helping to rebalance the system. And another thing we really don't talk about much is stress management. Stress changes over like 1,400 plus chemicals, and I'm sure, Doctor, you can even go into more detail on that, but stress management is absolutely huge for being able to start managing blood sugars and getting them back into balance and the whole body in balance.
Right, that's great. Thanks for sharing things that I know a lot of us have never thought of.
Huge area.
Dr. Novakovic.
You mentioned supplements, and Alicia mentioned there's fantastic actually group of things that need to be paid major attention to. My experience from Europe is, and it's kind of used here recently, there are supplements that can be used to treat and maybe to prevent, diabetes. Should one be that aggressive to start taking them when not diagnosed? Probably not, but be on the watch. Once you have prediabetes, maybe. What's interesting, I don't know if Alicia is aware of this one, but like she said, cinnamon, chromium picolinate, and that kind of stuff. But there are products, one of them that I recently started using very successfully for the past year with my patients, that contains as a main ingredient mulberry leaf extract.
Oh, that's one.
And I'm telling it to a gentleman who just came back from Serbia, and I'm telling him, okay, maybe you can buy this. And he goes, Doc, I have in my car, in the back seat, a bag with the dry mulberry leaf. Wow. So these things are known across the world. We need to use experiences of other countries and import good stuff here.
Yes, that's a really
sure.
good point.
Definitely.
Do you have anything to add to that? Or
No.
all right.
Everything as natural as possible, preventing medications as much as possible. So much is about nutrition and lifestyle and just getting back to the basics.
On account of that, the first usually word that my patients will tell me when I give them the diagnosis of diabetes, can I avoid medications? Can I do it without medications?
Right.
I'm like, okay, we can try, depending, of the level, of course, of the sugar detected at the time, but it is possible.
Right. So you covered the mulberry leaf. Are there other natural remedies that either one of you can recommend?
Well, there's definitely blood sugar supplements that have more of a combination of these natural nutrients that are going to help renourish the body, and that's a great place to start. Same thing even with the stress management. There's a lot of supplements to use, of course, with caution that will help to calm the body down, which is again going to kind of calm the adrenaline, which is also adding to blood sugar rises and peaks.
Yeah. Alicia, let's talk about your work as a nutritionist.
Sure. Wow. Well, I kind of briefly mentioned after I finished my credentials as a dietitian and a certified nutrition specialist, I kind of balanced it out and really just saw the end effects of actually diabetes working in dialysis as kind of one of the end stage of complications of diabetes and seeing dialysis. And it's like, man, we got to get to this before it gets to this stage. And then same thing with cancer. There's so much we can do in prevention. And as I'd mentioned, my own health crisis, there's so much. It was even a huge deal for me to how do I change my eating and what have I really been taught? What really is health? And as we actually have to face that question, what is that answer? So my first thought is how do we make it taste good and how do we get back to not feeling deprived and having other options so that it is fun? So that's was a lot of the work with food production and having a dessert line because we do feel deprived so often. And how do we change directions so we don't feel so deprived? And then most recently, I've kind of gone back into more the education side and really want to help people nourish their dreams to life because if we're not feeling well, we really, it's so much more difficult to enjoy our life and just live out our life to be the best that we can. So how do we really get back to that point of renourishing our body, whether it's a certain condition, in this case diabetes, or just even prevention and go in there. So that's really become my passion of how do we prevent and keep it from getting to these points.
Right, which is great. And I've known you for many years when you were in that health crisis and see you come out of it as a courageous woman and now you're helping people, which I really appreciate and admire that about you. And the reason I wanted to have you on, in addition to Dr. Novakovic, is there's that day-to-day diet and eating and lifestyle, in addition to seeing a doctor, getting tested, getting a doctor's recommendation and advice. We really need all of it.
Yes.
And to do all of that. So you recently published a book called Taste Radiant Living, 7 Simple and Delicious Secrets to Eating and Well-Being, which I'm thoroughly enjoying this book. I love how you tell your story in the book, which I know a lot of people can relate to. And so tell us about your book.
Well, as you said, it goes through my story because even though I'd been trained in nutrition, I realized that what I'd been taught wasn't necessarily what was working. And my story, as well as so many others, you get to that point where you've tried everything, you're not getting answers in traditional routes. What else do you do? And so, okay, we realize we have to change nutrition and lifestyle. Well, what does that look like? There's, you name the diet, it's out there. And then what do you do? How do you do it? How do you make it taste good? We don't want to give up anything. We certainly don't want to be miserable in the process. So it's a lot of my story, how I did it. It's my favorites. It's what I've done with clients, how I simplify the process. How do you get started? How do you stay motivated? How do you make it daily? How do you make it doable? How do you still make it taste good? How do you even make it start with dessert? You don't have to give it up. And I actually include a lot of some of my favorite recipes, some of our signature dessert recipes. They are in the back as well. Some great tips, some tracking stuff that you can kind of use to help monitor and make goals, set goals, as well as just, again, simplify the process. Get off that diet merry-go-round that we've kind of been taught that it's hit and miss and it's not a lifestyle.
It's true. There's so many diets out there that really, maybe you lose weight, but then you can't maintain it. So it's really not very realistic. What I've noticed in our grocery stores or our food industry, most foods are made to taste good and be convenient.
Yeah.
And like you said, they're void of nutrition.
Yeah.
There's
Very
a
much
lot of
so.
good choices to make. For me, your book has helped me so much, and Dr. Novakovic, and I focus on eating produce. To me, if I think that way rather than, oh man, those Oreo cookies at home, which I don't have those at home, but a lot of what we focus on is really important. Focus, plan ahead. I know that's helped me. What inspired you to write the book, and who is it intended for?
Well, I think it's for America right now because there is so much information. How do we really simplify it? And I think knowing you're not alone, and again, just knowing what it's like to be so overwhelmed and walking through the process, it can be extremely overwhelming. And you know, we've gotten to a place in our culture where it's actually much easier than it was even 5 or 10 years ago. But you know, actually doing it, I think we know it, but actually walking it out is a whole nother thing. And to actually put it into doable steps that you can enjoy, that it can become the new normal. I also include a lot of what do you do with travel? What do you do with holidays? You know, what do you do when you're eating out? And it just really simplifies it. So, you know, it's for anyone, whether or not you're facing a health crisis, you want prevention, you just want to increase your energy, increase your immune system, prevent aging. It's really for everyone.
It is
Because
for
nutrition
everyone.
is the foundation. It really is.
It's true. To me, it's a book to have forever. It's going to be a classic.
Thank you.
You know what I think would be a good idea? Friends get together, read the book, made some recipes together. That would
Yeah.
kind of help and make a study out of it. I was just thinking about that. I think people should do that with your
Yeah.
book. Okay, so we hear in the media about diabetes and reaching epidemic levels. Do you want to share some numbers and help us with some perspective and statistics of the truth?
Yeah, the numbers are really pretty, almost overwhelming actually, when you think about it. I think we're at 1 out of 3 are pre-diabetic, but 90% of those are actually undiagnosed. So as he was mentioning, because it's there's not symptoms, people are walking around with this. And okay, 1 out of 3, that's sounding more serious, but when you put a number of 84 million on that, it's like, ooh. And then on top of that, you have another 9% that actually are diabetic, and that's still another 34 million. So that's what, 100 and, I better not do the math.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's epidemic.
Absolutely.
That's why I'm doing this show, so people realize. And I personally have known children that are diabetic, and how hard for a child who has to watch all his friends eat that birthday cake, or it's traumatic, and it's difficult for the whole family. Whereas as adults, we have ourselves, but children, it's a whole different dynamic, and I've been very troubled about that. So I'm hoping our show can help a lot of people, not just adults, but be aware of their children and the importance of health for their children. What are some recommendations you may have for people facing diabetes? For both of you, want to answer, Dr. Novakovic, anything that maybe you haven't covered yet?
When you say facing, do you mean already diagnosed? Or?
Yes, they are diagnosed. You have diabetes. Now, what do you do?
It is a big challenge. It requires a lot of support. It requires family support, spousal usually. You know, if the husband and wife both have diabetes, unfortunately, it's easy. But if one doesn't, then you see the other one not being able to. I mean, it needs support. The problem is, again, you don't feel it. You don't realize it's damaging you on a daily basis. You know, so determination is very important. Compliance with the diet, realizing that those foods are not your friends if they're increasing your sugar level. Thank God that it's been that for the past decade, sugars have become kind of unpopular. So carb-free diet has become, widely recommended. So I'm hoping that may actually cut a little niche in that the statistics of yours is kind of doomy and gloomy.
Yes.
One of the big factors is activity. Put the remote control in a drawer and get up and change the channels. The things like that. Don't drive across the street to check the mail. Europeans beat us there because they walk. My aunt was visiting from Germany, and I was taking her to grocery stores, and after 3 times she loses it. She goes, "Okay, why don't you park inside the store? We are looking for the nearest spot next to the grocery store. When we go exercise, we are looking at the nearest spot next to the gym instead of parking away and walking. And, so activity, activity, activity. That's my biggest, what I try to push with patients. Determination, ask for support. What we need is Alicia's. Okay,
Right.
I have been frustrated for 20 years when I had patients in a hospital. Yes, I can get a nutritionist like this. When I get patient in my office diagnosed with diabetes, I cannot get it because it is not covered by the insurance. So they have to write a book, for them to be able to teach people. We need nutritionists involved in our daily practice, physicians' daily practice, so we can educate and most importantly, prevent it from developing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Because it can be prevented.
Oh yes, oh
for
yes.
sure. For sure.
You have anything you'd like to add to that?
I think I'm just going to reiterate his accountability. Having somebody to do it with you is going to be key because it is hard. It's a life change. We've been eating all our lives. That's all we've known. And it's really, food is so emotional. It's not usually just change your eating for a lot of people. It's a big, big change. And there's whether we're eating for comfort or stress or because we're lonely, bored, whatever, you name it. It's a big thing. So having some support and accountability, whether it's, some people do well with tracking systems and, maybe it's your phone. Some people, we actually, of course, we still need each other. We need people, but some sort of coach, family support on the daily basis, friends. It's absolutely essential.
Right.
Video camera by the refrigerator for nocturnal monitoring.
Alarm.
Look whose pajama is that over there. 2:00 in the morning. Oh yeah, okay.
That's a good point, right?
Yeah, family meeting at 2:00. Everybody on a diet, and
Right.
then we'll meet at 2:00 in the morning.
And now some parents actually have locks on their refrigerators and their kids.
Yeah,
And
sadly, yes.
when I was raising my kids, what did we have? White rainbow bread. I don't think there was
Right.
such a thing as whole wheat bread, or if it was,
Yeah.
we didn't like it. So it was rainbow bread, macaroni and cheese, bologna, hot dogs. Yikes. No
But
wonder
we're-
this generation is
Exactly.
having so-
We're now coming up with that generation that was raised on that.
yeah,
Second and third
exactly.
generation now.
Right. So let's talk specifically about parents with kids that have diabetes. Any specific advice you could give them to help their children?
You want me to?
You're going to start first? Okay.
I do not manage children with diabetes. Those little rascals are stronger than we are. They are so adaptable. They become an example usually for their parents. They're like, how can he do that? So I don't have much answers there because I don't manage them directly, but I have seen and been impressed by those little angels and how they just take a grasp of it, get used to it, and then boom, they do it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow, that's good to know.
Well, and I think it goes back to, again, family support. It changes in the family. It needs to change in the family because they need to see it modeled. And so it's going to start with the parents. It's going to start with grandparents and everybody, again, being supportive. And even teachers, we've sadly taken a lot of our activity out of schools. And, sometimes the school food system is not always the best. There's been a lot of changes and some systems are doing incredible things. And again, to have that support on all the levels, it's going to be huge.
Right. It really is a community problem.
It really is.
Yeah.
What resources do you recommend? We'll start with Dr. Novakovic.
Resources for
Helping with getting rid of diabetes, preventing diabetes. Any specific resources you can recommend?
one of the few good things about internet is the availability of information when it comes to worldwide, all languages everywhere, how to look, what to eat. Alicia's colleagues and her, should be the mainstay of it. Education is important. Again, I'm going to stress the prevention. Go in and check yearly. If you don't have diabetes, still ask your doctor to check it yearly. Once it's established, frequent follow-ups, adaptability, being able to sacrifice things, but this thing kind of tends to vary from patient to patient. You are going to approach a soldier with diabetes different from a grandma with diabetes because the soldier needs to conquer somebody and so he has an enemy to beat. That's why the resources will vary depending on the population profile and stuff. These books are really important, so I really appreciate what you have done, and it's really, really important. And as a matter of fact, I already spoke to Alicia. I want this book in my waiting room. I want information about it so
Great.
people can read, especially while they're waiting for me for a long
Right.
time.
No, does that happen? You're worth waiting for.
Hopefully. Thank you.
Alicia, thoughts about resources?
Well,
We have your great book
thank
here.
you, thank you,
It's
yes.
a fabulous book.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, and I just want to add on to how important it is to have a healthcare team that really is supportive and understands the value of nutrition and will really help their patients pursue those avenues that are more natural. And there's just a lot of doctors that have not been trained with that, and so are not as maybe open or as encouraging or as supportive in some areas with some of what's out there. So try different people, ask around. Right here is a great resource for our community right here. Look for those that are going to be really on your team and finding those. It's just, again, back to the accountability and the support. It's huge. I will also say I've got a free tips on my website that is an ebook that will also get people started. So right there, again, back to the internet and education. There's lots out there.
Right.
So help yourselves.
That's wonderful. And also, you will go into homes and help people with their nutrition needs and how their family eats. And you want to talk a little bit about what you offer?
Yeah, I do one-on-one sessions, again, as far as wellness prevention, if we actually want to work on whether it's blood sugars, food allergies, whatever it is that we're struggling with. Of course, weight is one of the biggest things that I hear and see. There's certainly so many things that we can do. I do group sessions. I've done families, small groups. Get your friends together. Ladies, get a group together. We'll do tea. We'll do tea and coffee. Church, local community groups. So many different ways that we can do educations and groups. So.
Right, that's a good
Lots of ways.
point. And Dr. Novakovic, your practice is right here in Chandler by Alma School in Warner, right? And you're also a talented guitar player, which I've heard you, electric guitar. Boy, you can really play that fast and some great melodies. It's very,
Thank you.
you're very talented with that. Well, we have a few minutes remaining, and I just want to know, we'll start with Dr. Novakovic. Is there anything you want to share or add that we haven't talked about or you want to cover again?
Let me reiterate the importance of prevention. Over the past 23 years practicing in the States, and prior to that, I have always been very eager to catch things earlier, to prevent them. Do not wait for your doctor to remind you of the physical market. You don't have to have it yearly until probably 50 years of age, but then do it yearly. Prior to that, do it every couple of years. Ask your doctor for a regular health panel. Those are covered by insurances, so you can discover if there is an issue. Always be ahead of the game. That is always important, particularly in people with family history of diabetes, particularly in people who are a little bit overweight. Again, that obesity epidemics is out there, and it needs to be conquered, and some proper steps are being done. Once it happens, adapt, cooperate, find a physician that will be a part of a team, and win. Diabetes is beatable. It is beatable. You can make it go away. It is tough. It requires consistency, but it can happen. One of the examples why Alicia's profession is crucial, I recently, 3 months ago, diagnosed a lady that I had known from the time that I was admitting to Tempe St. Luke's Hospital, and she got her grasp on it. There was a major, really nice organized class that she discovered that I didn't even know about it, and I'm gonna try to, inform people about it. And she got on it, lost 30 pounds. Her diabetes is now at the stage of prediabetes in 3 months.
Wow.
I'm talking 3 months here, so she comes in and shows off her new clothes and stuff. I mean, it's doable. So basically think prevention, and early management for not only diabetes, but for every illness out there.
Great. Alicia.
Well, I think first we got to remember it's still about mindsets. There's just some different shifts in our belief systems and the things that we value that just end up needing to change a little bit, just a few tweaks. And I think part of that, probably one of the most important things, is knowing that we're worth it. We're worth the investment that it's going to take. All the viewers need to know and remember that you're worth it. We need you. Each viewer out there has specific gifts and talents that no one else has, and we need you. You're here for this time and this purpose, and we need you. So get well so we can have you
Right.
and enjoy everything. And your family needs you. Your friends need you. So you're worth it, whether it's going to take a little longer to plan. You're worth the investment, whether it's going to be extra appointments or different foods, whatever. But you're worth it. So
That's a really
bottom
good
line.
point. And we have a lot of fitness centers just about on every corner,
Yeah.
right?
There's lots of
Or
options.
you can walk yourself.
Park further away from the entrance.
Yes,
It's free exercise.
we have Tumbleweed Recreation Center where people can come exercise. We have a lot of parks. Actually, in Chandler, we have a park on every square mile where people can go and walk, take their kids, take their dogs, and we are a very healthy, conscious city. So that's why I wanted to do this show, and I appreciate both of you coming on the show and sharing your areas that where you can help people get well, making everyone aware of this is an epidemic, and there's such a thing as pre-diabetes, and you're getting a lot of great advice of how people can control it, prevent diabetes, help others, and change this. So I really appreciate both of you and your area of expertise. Thank you for watching. This is Chandler Vice Mayor Nora Ellen. Have a good day.